All right, time for Sharper Square. Chad Millman, CCO Action Network, all odds provided by FanDuel. Everybody now pouring cold water on the Dolphins. No. Missing both tackles against the best defense in about 6 years in the league. The Chargers are poorly coached, inconsistent O-line and receiver. Miami's a real team. We overreacted to that loss. The fact they were competitive late is impressive. They were missing both tackles against the best defensive front in the sport. I think Miami is better coached. State out west, bounces back as a favorite, -3. Really like the Dolphins, Sharper Square.
Not only do the wise guys disagree with you on this, on the Favorites Pod today, this was what we call our big balls bet of the week. You got to have balls if you want to bet the Los Angeles Chargers and a team that's been banged up with a really big coaching deficit, because I agree the Dolphins are just much better coached than the Los Angeles Chargers. But the Chargers as dogs are different than the Chargers as favorites. The Chargers as dogs, there's so much variance in how they play, what their play calling is. They're complete wild cards in a game that probably can be a shootout, because I do think that the Dolphins are struggling with injuries, and the number's 3.5. So you're getting the hook. Right now, this is a total pros Joe's game with the squares on the Dolphins and the wise guys on the Chargers.
All right, let's go back to dogs, which I usually like. Deshaun Watson's going to be better in week 2 than week 1. Divisional game, +6. They've had their number. Bengals off a wildly crucial watch, discuss game over the Chiefs. Pull back a little. Browns +6 or 5.5. Sharper Square.
Great number. Totally sharp play. Divisional game. Playing against, with the Browns, a team that did horribly against a team that is even worse in the Texans. This game probably should be lined around 4, but there's inflation on the Bengals because they are now the public darling. And what they did to the Chiefs, which we talked about, love the Bengals as 2.5-point home underdogs. It's exactly what we thought they would do. But now the market is so overinflated on the Bengals. You have to take the Browns in this. Another one where there's a huge discrepancy. You've got a lot of tickets. Tickets are usually an indication of the squares of the public coming in. They're all coming in on the Bengals, but the money coming in on the Browns.
I think my favorite bet of the week as a dog is the Panthers +4 at the Seahawks. I think this team plays hard. I think they like Sam Darnold. I think Seattle struggled to put away what is currently an awful Rams team. I think Seattle's a better story than a team. People buy into sometimes stories and narratives. This game, to me, is last second. Not shocked if Carolina wins. For the record, Brian Burns, rookie offensive tackle, watch out. I like Carolina plus the point, Sharper Square.
Totally sharp. Complete agreement on this. Seattle's really been struggling the past few games. Kenneth Walker, he looked like the odds-on favorite. He was the odds-on favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Last 3 games, that running game has been struggling. He's injured, did not practice on Wednesday. His backup is injured, did not practice as well. They're in a lot more 3rd and long situations, which does not play to Geno's strength. And you're right about the Panthers. When Baker Mayfield isn't the quarterback for this team, they're a mediocre to decent team. Defensively, they're really good on explosive plays, defending explosive plays. And J.C. Horn, he's had 361 coverage snaps this year. He's allowed 138 yards receiving. So,
he's great.
He's great. So if you look at like the other side of it, we just said the Seahawks need to run the ball, but they're going to have a hard time doing it. So then you've got a lockdown corner who can take away DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. So now you've basically eliminated all the things that the Seahawks can do. I think the wise guys agree that this is a good number and they expect it to be a close game.
Vikings getting 1.5, all odds provided by FanDuel. Still a better team, more balanced than Detroit. Detroit off a big win, feeling themselves. It is still an absolutely awful back end of the defense, even if they outplay Minnesota. Minnesota's got that veteran quarterback, lots of weapons. This is a classic. I just don't trust Detroit as a favorite. I'll take more stability, at least a defense that can occasionally, situationally make some stops. Sharp or square, I'll take the Vikings and the points.
You are playing pretty square on that one. I don't agree that you can say the Vikings are a better team than the Lions. In fact, if you look at the numbers, look at the advanced metrics, which is what wise guys like to do. They don't do total yards on offense, total yards on defense. They like to look at the next level. They like to look at the metrics that tell you the story of the game, regardless of what the final score is. So one of those metrics is called DVOA, right? Lions, right. 13th overall in DVOA, Vikings 20th. Lions 9th in offense on DVOA, Vikings 18th. Defense, Lions 19th, Vikes 18th. And by the way, since the Lions came out of the bye and since they fired their defensive backs coach, this is a team that statistically, offensively and defensively, is pretty much the Cincinnati Bengals. And everyone thinks the Cincinnati Bengals are now going to the Super Bowl. So the reason why you have a team that has a much worse record that is favored at home against the team that is leading their division by many, many games is because the professionals feel like the Lions are probably a better team than the Vikings. And the fact you're getting it at 1.5 is a really good number. I recommend you take it.
Sometimes I don't understand numbers and I stay away. But I actually think when Mike White's at quarterback, it's a reasonably capable offense. They're now getting 10. Revenge is overrated in divisional games. I think Buffalo's a good team. 10 against the Jets defense seems awfully optimistic. I would take the points with the Jets. I think they're a real football team, sharp or square.
Believe it or not, it's square. So right now, the number of tickets, the Jets are the public underdog in this game. So you mentioned the numbers at 10. It was at 9. The tickets are coming in on the Jets, but the money, the professionals, are on the Bills. And so we've had what's called a reverse line move. That's when the preponderance of tickets are on one side, but the money is on the other side, and it moves in the direction of the money, not in the direction of the tickets. And I think, one, people believe Mike White is a better quarterback than Zach Wilson.
He is.
But now you're getting tape on Mike White. You've got 6 games of tape in the past couple of years. It's easier to figure out who this guy is. I think the wise guys feel like the Bills will be able to scheme against him differently. And I also think they believe the Bills are getting healthy. And look, what they did against the Patriots 10 days ago was really impressive. To beat a team that people thought was on the ascent in the Patriots and do it convincingly on the road in a short week, that's not easy to do. You don't do that often in the NFL. So there's a lot of enthusiasm for what the Bills can be right now.
All right, time for, I'm not sure what to do with this game. I want to ask you, Jags plus 3.5 at the Titans coming off a humiliating loss. Vrabel off a humiliating loss. My guess is at home, they play their arse off. But I didn't bet it. Tell me the side, sharp or square.
The sharp side is the Jaguars if. There is a huge Trevor Lawrence question right now. He injured his toe. Is he going to be playing? I think the expectation is that he will be playing. What you do by beating the Titans is by beating the Jags is by throwing the ball. The Titans don't have a downfield threat. Treylon Burks is not expected to play because of the concussion protocols. And the Jags have a really good rush defense. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, let's say Trevor Lawrence does play. The Titans defense is crushed by injuries, especially in the secondary. They're playing guys literally off the street right now. So you're buying a little bit low on the Jags. because what happened with the Lions, they got completely blown out. And the Titans need to win by a margin. It's not like 1 or 2 points. They need to win by more than a field goal. That's actually when you fade Vrabel. So the wise guys, if they get Trevor Lawrence, are going to be on the Jags.
Okay, now try to talk me into a game. For the record, last week, the minute the game started, I knew you were right. It was Denver. And I looked at them again this week at 9.5, and I'm like, God, I hate it, but is that the game?
Last week, I begged you. I begged you to bet
You did.
the Broncos, and I begged you to bet the Rams. I'm going to do it again. Not with the Rams. I'm going to beg you to bet the Broncos. I will have more money on the Broncos this week than any other game. Forget about the teams. Let's just say you put your hand over the franchises. If you blindly bet home underdogs of 7 or more, the last 20 years, they cover 56% of the time. And by the way, when I give that number, it's not like, oh, they win 6 times out of 10. That's a 400 plus game sample size. It is a lot of games, right? Take it one step further. You've got a team with a 65 plus % winning percentage. That's Kansas City Chiefs against a team that is losing game, that is winning at 25% or less. Their winning percentage is 25% or less. Since 2016, those winning teams, the teams that win, are covering at a 36% rate. Okay? That's terrible. Let's take it one step further. And there's a reason for all this. Patrick Mahomes in November and December in his career is 32-5. Against the spread, 17, 18, and 2. The reason why all this happens is because when you get later in the year, you have bigger favorites. The bigger favorites are always the teams that have won for 2 straight months. They're the Kansas City Chiefs, right? And so they're inflated. The public is going to come in on them. Bookmakers know that. So you are always getting extra value when you fade when you bet against those teams, because those teams are so beloved by the public.
Monday Night Football, Patriots.
Be my betting buddy, Colin.
I know it's hard. I told you, I hate betting bad offenses.
Terrible.
Patriots-Cardinals, who would you take?
I'd probably take the Cardinals. It's interesting. We've talked about this. Like when we do the podcasts, we do one on Tuesday, we do one on Thursday. But in those 48 hours, we get a lot of calls from professional bettors who like to talk about the games that we were talking about and sort of give us their take. And we call it sharp calls. And there were a lot of sharp calls this week, like in Arizona. It's a little bit because the Pats seem to be in some offensive disarray. I think that we're talking, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago with the Cardinals prior to the bye. I liked them as dogs against the Chargers, and that covered. It's because they were finally healthy. Like they got Hollywood Brown, they got DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins has been all world since he came back. You're just getting a better look at that offense. And the Pats, if they've struggled with anything defensively, it's been with rushing quarterbacks. So yeah, I favor the Cardinals.
Chad Millman, CCO Action Network. Good seeing you, buddy.
Good to see you too, my man. I'll talk to you later.